Our next inductee is the author of the book, Profit from the Positive. She has a bachelor's in sociology from the University of Hartford and a master of applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. She's a sought-after international inspirational speaker. She came all the way in from Connecticut to be here tonight. Please make her feel welcome. Miss Margaret H. Greenberg. Congratulations.
You get a hug. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. And a special thank you to my colleagues out here in California, Pam, Senya, Nick, Jeffrey, and Talia that came out tonight to share with all of us. I'm going to share with you just a couple of stories about how the seemingly small choices that we make every day have an impact on not only our happiness, but really most importantly, the happiness of other people around us. So it was 10 and a half years ago that I stumbled upon something that's really the reason why I think I'm here tonight. And it was in March of 2005. And in Connecticut, the calendar may say spring, but it's still really winter. So it was a Saturday morning, and I was in my home office with my cup of coffee, cleaning out my inbox, and I stumbled upon this announcement for the first ever in the world Masters of Applied Positive Psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. I didn't even know there was such a thing as positive psychology. Do all of you? Probably now, 10 years later, no. Okay. I thought, is there even such a thing as negative psychology? But I started to read about what this science of happiness was all about. And it was being taught by these positive psychology luminaries that, of course, I didn't know were luminaries at the time. Dr. Seligman, Christopher Peterson, Mike Csikszentmihalyi, who's out here in California, Sonia Lyubomirsky, Jonathan Haidt, all these like famous people that I didn't know. And we were going to study topics like hope, optimism, resilience. And I thought, oh my gosh, as a coach, this is now the science behind what I do. Like it just so spoke to me. So I hit the print button, which I know out here is not cool, but I did. I'm kind of an old-fashioned kind of gal. And I ran outside. My husband was out in the yard doing something. And I said, Neil, listen to this. And I start to read the description of this program. And he very simply and calmly says, Margaret, why don't you apply? And I said, yes, but what if I get in? I mean, we had one daughter already in college, another in high school who would be going off in another year. I had an elderly father with Parkinson's. I was running a business. Penn is 5 hours car drive from my house. And I thought, how can I possibly make this work, financially, emotionally, logistically? And again, my husband is like so calm. And he says, why don't we worry about that if you get in? So I thought, okay. So the rest is history. I applied. I got in. I studied with these incredible people. But I also studied with incredible people, not just professors, but the classmates. And one classmate in particular, who's here with us tonight, Senya, who also went on to get her PhD here in organizational behavior at Stanford. I mean, she's really smart. She was inducted last year. I struck up a friendship with Senya, and besides sharing this passion for positive psychology, we discovered we actually had another passion, which was baking. Do we have any bakers in the room? Okay, great. Well, we promised ourselves that once we earned this degree, that we would get together in my kitchen in Connecticut and we would bake. Senya would teach me how to make Russian apple cake, and I would teach her how to make blueberry pie. So it was while we were in my kitchen, like flour everywhere, that the idea to write Profit from the Positive came to us. We had been experimenting and applying the tools and the methods that we had learned at the University of Pennsylvania with our coaching clients and their teams. But we were only reaching a couple of hundred people at that point. And we thought, what if we wrote a book? So that's what we did. But like anything else, life gets in the way, right? So we have really good intentions. So something that we thought we could bang out in about 5 months, we were just going to bang this thing out, instead took us 5 years. Again, we had families to care for, we had businesses to run, but we finally did. Now, I know we have a couple book authors in the room, so what I'm about to share, you already know, but do we have any aspiring book authors? Yeah, right here, aspiring. Oh, awesome. All right, I'm going to let you in on a little secret tonight. Book writing is full of rejections. First, you get rejected by agents because you're a nobody, right? So you get rejected by agents. And then finally, you will land one. Then you get rejected by endorsers. Because again, you're a nobody, and nobody wants to endorse a nobody. But eventually you do. You keep banging on doors and you keep asking, and you will get some endorsers. And then lastly, you get rejected by publishers, who again don't want to represent you. And we landed the mother of all publishers, McGraw, I will leave out the middle initial, Hill. But again, we were rejected by many other publishers, and we were rejected by McGraw-Hill once before we even got accepted. So I tell you this not to dissuade you from writing and publishing your book, but to encourage you to have persistence, to have perseverance, to have resilience, to be able to bounce back after all those rejections if you really feel like you have something to say. Now, one of our chapters in Profit from the Positive is called The Resilient Leader. The subtitle is How to Give Yourselves a Kick in the Pants, a psychological kick in the pants. And believe me, we had to give each other a lot of psychological kicks in the pants over those 5 years in order to get this book published. So one of the things that we write about is strengths, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I think what's really important is that we also write about resilience, and I can't stress that enough. So I'll be happy to report that Profit from the Positive has now been translated into 3 languages, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Senya and I have brought this now to hundreds, thousands of people, both here in the States at universities, at associations, businesses, and abroad in Scandinavia, Europe, Mexico last week. And a part of that is also we've brought it to hundreds of thousands of people through our positive work column, which I know that sounds like an oxymoron, positive work, but it really can be, through a wonderful magazine called Live Happy. So our dream of reaching more than just a couple hundred people a year has come to fruition. And one of the topics that we often write about is strengths. How many people have actually taken some kind of strengths assessment? Yeah, awesome. How many people actually remember their strengths when they're undergoing difficult times and challenges? Great, thank you back there. Now, for those of you that have never taken a strengths assessment, no worries. An easy way to uncover your strengths is simply to ask yourself, what am I really good at? What kinds of work come really easily to me? And when am I at my best? So identifying your strengths, recognizing your strengths is a key component to being happy, doing what you love. But it's equally important to recognize the strengths of other people, the people in our lives. And I'd like to end with a story, a personal story, about a mistake I made and how what we call strength spotting fits in. Spotting the strengths of others, be it your spouse, your partner, your children, your colleagues, your employees, your Uber driver that brought me here tonight, anybody. So how does it fit in? As you can imagine, I do a lot of traveling, and I stay in a lot of hotels. And about 7 weeks ago, I had just checked out of the Baltimore waterfront Marriott. And I was about 100 miles into my drive back to Connecticut when I realized my mistake. I had left my iPad in the hotel room safe. Has anybody else left a valuable in a hotel room safe? Yeah, be honest with me. Okay, so I'm not the only one, right? So I immediately call the hotel. I don't even know what department to ask for. Who do you ask for when you leave something like that? But the receptionist said, let me transfer you to security. So this man picks up the phone. Good morning, this is Arthur Owens. How may I help you? And I relayed my story the second time in a very anxious tone. And he right away, God bless you, right away he said, no worries, I'll look into that for you. Do you recall the 4-digit code that you used for the safe? Now, I'm not a numbers person, but I use the same 4 digits for everything. Does everybody else? Like, who can remember more than 4 digits in the same order? So, of course, I didn't tell him that, but I didn't want him to go into my bank account. So I said, yes, I remember. I gave him the 4-digit code, and he said, I will get on that right now, and I will call you back shortly. I thought, great. So I continue on my drive home, hoping that I'm not going to have to turn around and go retrieve this thing. But I'm hoping he finds it. About 15 minutes later, my phone rings, and he said, good afternoon, this is Arthur Owens calling. I have great news. I found your iPad. I was like, yes. I'm like, can I give you my credit card so you can mail it back to me so I don't have to schlep all the way back there? He said, no problem. Marriott will take care of it. I'll mail it back to you. I thanked him profusely and hung up the phone. And a few hours later, I get back home, and my phone rings again, and I see that it's a Baltimore area code. I'm thinking, who's this? And I pick up the phone, and he said, good afternoon. This is Arthur Owens. I'm like, Arthur! We're like on a first name basis now. I'm like, hi. And he said, I just wanted to let you know I put your iPad in the mail this afternoon, but I thought you might like the FedEx tracking number. And I was like, wow, Arthur. I said, your follow-through is incredible. And when I called you the first time, you really so calmed me down. I'm so appreciative. I'd really like to tell your manager. How would I do that? And he thanked me, and he said, well, you just go on the website, you can write a letter, and it will get to my manager. And I thought, great. Well, you know what happens. Life gets in the way again. 10 days went by before I actually sat down and wrote this letter and hit the send button, but I did. And I was so inspired by this service that this man gave me for my mistake, a mistake I made, that I wrote a LinkedIn blog post. And the comments started to roll in. Arthur ought to receive a raise. Arthur ought to be promoted. I hope Marriott recognizes, his exemplary service, and so on. And about a day later, I hear back from Marriott, and indeed, we are going to recognize Arthur Owens for his exemplary service. Thank you for telling me. Great. A few more days go by, and I go back onto LinkedIn, and now I have a couple dozen comments. And one of them stopped me in my tracks. It was from the front desk manager, who wrote, "It is with a heavy heart that I tell you, Officer Owens passed away yesterday." I don't tell you this story to depress you at a happiness event. I really don't. I tell you this story because I really do believe we have opportunities every day to recognize the strengths of others, to focus in on what they do right. What Mike has done this whole evening, that every day we have an opportunity to do that. So I urge you to do it at home, to do it at school, to do it at work, to do it in your community, and to do it tonight. So thank you, and thank you, Mike.